students, today we are going to discuss a new topic, okay, and that is intestinal obstruction. So, how do we classify intestinal obstruction? Basically, it can be dynamic obstruction or adynamic obstruction. Dynamic obstruction is also called mechanical obstruction. That is, there is actual narrowing there in the passage of a small or large intestine which is causing obstruction. Physical obstruction is there. So this is called mechanical obstruction or dynamic obstruction. And there can be adynamic obstruction. That is, there is no mechanical obstruction, but still there is functional obstruction, as occurs in paralytic ileus, and pseudo obstruction as occurs in large intestine. Okay. So this is one way of classifying. We also say acute obstruction when there is complete obstruction, no passage of flatus feces, which is called acute obstruction. When there is some passage of flatus feces, then we call it incomplete or subacute obstruction. Okay. So what causes obstruction? The causes of obstruction, intestine is there. So it's better to classify it as causes in the lumen, inside the lumen, causes in the wall, causes outside the wall. Okay. So if you classify it like this, you will remember causes in the lumen, then in the wall and outside wall. So what can be there in the lumen which can cause obstruction? Suppose anything which blocks the passage of the intestinal content can lead to obstruction, like sometimes fecal impaction, hard feces, especially in elderly people and all, can lead to obstruction. Okay, so fecal impaction, or if foreign body is there because of some psychiatric illness or some patient can ingest some foreign bodies, that can lead to obstruction. Sometimes stones are there, stercoli, gallstones. Gallstone if gallbladder and the fistula occurs between gallbladder and duodenum or gallbladder and transverse colon, then gallstones can pass in the intestine and can cause gallstone ileus or obstruction. Okay. Sometimes foreign bodies like phytobezoar and trichobezoar can cause obstruction. What is phytobezoar? When a person takes very high fiber, very much of fiber that can get entangled and form a bolus, that is called phytobezoar. And some psychiatric illness patients, they ingest a lot of hair, and the hair get entangled and forms a mass, that is called trichobezoar. So you have fecal impaction, you have stones, gallstones, foreign body, phytobezoar, trichobezoar. Okay, so these all can cause obstruction in the lumen. What can occur in the wall? In the wall, basically any stricture, any narrowing in the wall because of chronic inflammation, like in tuberculosis stricture, Crohn's disease, they can lead to stricture. So these are benign strictures. Similarly, there can be malignant stricture, as in malignancy of the small intestine or large intestine, that can narrow the intestine and can lead to obstruction. So benign stricture, malignant stricture, and sometimes the intestine can intercept on itself. That is, the proximal intestine goes into the distal intestine and intercepts, causing obstruction. Sometimes it rotates on its axis. That is volvulus, isn't it? Volvulus can occur, especially in sigmoid colon and cecum. So interception and volvulus are also causes of obstruction in the obstruction, which will come in the causes of for the wall. What can occur outside wall? Outside wall, obviously, there could be band, adhesions, hernia, isn't it? They can cause intestinal obstruction. Band, the intestine can rotate around that band, twist around that band. Any pressure can be there because of tumor from adjacent organs and all, can lead to obstruction. Bands, adhesions, hernia can occur. Okay, so these are the causes of intestinal obstruction. Intestinal obstruction can be said to be in the small bowel obstruction, large bowel obstruction. Okay, happening in the small bowel will be small bowel, similarly in the large bowel. So an adynamic obstruction means there is no actual narrowing, but there is functional obstruction, as occurs in paralytic ileus, where in uremia and all, the peristaltic wave ceases because of electrolyte imbalance. Okay, or sometimes pseudo obstruction occurs. Peristalsis is so slow, as in large intestine. Sometimes in psychiatric patients, it's called pseudo obstruction. Okay. So what happens here? What is pathophysiology? What happens in obstruction? Basically, when these obstruction will occur, what will happen? The secretion will accumulate. There will be a point of obstruction, and proximal to that point there will be dilatation of intestine, isn't it? Because it is obstruction here, so proximal intestine will dilate, distal intestine will remain collapsed, collapsed, isn't it? And the secretions accumulate. Even normally, when a patient is not eating or drinking anything, you see, about 2.5 liters are there. There's 500 ml of saliva, 500 ml of bile, 500 ml of pancreatic juice, 1 liter of gastric juice is there. Is always there. That much fluid is always there, and in the intestine. And on top of that, the aerobic and anaerobic bacteria is there, which ferments the intestinal content and leads to lot of gas formation, isn't it? The gas, the oxygen and carbon dioxide are absorbed, whereas the other gas like nitrogen, 90% of the gas here in the intestine will be nitrogen and hydrogen sulfide. They accumulate and lead to abdominal distension. This distension, if it is too much marked, it will lead to impairment of venous return, and then will lead to arterial return, and then will lead to arterial insufficiency or ischemia, and can lead to gangrene and perforation, gangrene of the part and perforation. The patient can go in shock. Okay, so basically obstruction, proximal part dilates, distal is collapsed, lot of fluid accumulates. The intrinsic fluid which body secretes like saliva, bile, pancreatic juice, gastric juice and all, plus the air formed from the bacterial fermentation, and the air and the gas formed is basically mostly nitrogen, hydrogen sulfide, whereas oxygen and carbon dioxide is absorbed. So, and this distension will eventually leads to impairment of venous return and lead to arterial insufficiency and gangrene. Okay. So, this is about pathophysiology, and other causes. Bands, and I told you bands and adhesions. So bands, actually where from the bands will come? Basically these bands are formed because of acute inflammation, chronic inflammation, or even congenital bands are there. Okay, acute inflammation, any causes of peritonitis will lead to band formation. In earlier stage it is a fibrinous band, later on it becomes tough and fibrous band. Okay, and what about congenital bands like obliterated vitreointestinal duct can act as a band. If inflammation occurs somewhere, retromentum goes there. That retromentum part of it can act as a band also. Okay, so these are the causes of band formation: acute inflammation, chronic inflammation, congenital bands, and all. They can all lead to intestinal obstruction. Suppose intestinal obstruction occurs, what will the patient complain to you? How will he present to you? Intestinal obstruction patient usually will present to you with abdominal distension. He will complain of abdomen is distending, he has got pain, and he has got constipation, and he has got vomiting. So there are 4 cardinal signs: abdominal distension, pain, vomiting, and constipation. Okay. Pain is usually in beginning it is a colicky pain. Later on, when venous impairment and arterial impairment occurs, that is a strangulation is occurring, pain becomes severe and constant pain. So if a patient of intestinal obstruction complains to you, of severe and constant pain, then you should think about strangulation. You mean that arterial supply is impaired. Okay. Here vomiting occurs also. Vomiting, you see, more proximal the obstruction, the earlier will be the vomiting. That is, suppose the obstruction is in jejunum, the patient will present to you with vomiting. If obstruction is in ileum, the patient will present a bit later with vomiting, isn't it? If obstruction is in large intestine, it will present very late to you with vomiting. Vomiting will not be an early sign. So, more proximal the obstruction, more earlier the vomiting. Distension, more distal the obstruction, more large will be the distension. Suppose somebody has got jejunal obstruction, in that case the distension will not be that marked, it will be central abdominal distension. If ileal obstruction is there, the distension will be more. If large bowel obstruction is there, huge distension is there. Okay, and patient also complains of constipation. Constipation, you see, can be absolute constipation. Absolute constipation means patient is not passing flatus or feces. Both flatus and feces are blocked. That is called absolute constipation. And it may be relative, some flatus is passed because of, then it is subacute obstruction. Okay, so that so this is a feature: pain, vomiting, constipation, and then you have distension. So this is how a patient will present to you. Once strangulation has occurred, gut can perforate, and that perforation can lead to peritonitis, and that can lead to shock and even death. Okay, so perforation will lead to peritonitis and shock. In that case, abdomen will be tense, tender, guarding rigidity will be there. In obstruction, in any intestinal obstruction, if rigidity is there, rigidity means abdomen is tense, when the abdominal muscles are rigid. If guarding is there, rigidity is there, it means peritonitis has set in. It means gangrene is occurring. Okay. In inguinal hernia, if a swelling becomes tense, tender, irreducible, it means strangulation is there. Arterial supply is impaired. And strangulation is an emergency. It means you have to go in, you have to perform the surgery as soon as possible to reject the gangrenous part. Okay. So this is how the patient presents to you. Now a small topic of obstruction is volvulus. Okay, sigmoid valve. Volvulus. What is volvulus? Basically, it's the rotation of a gut on its mesentery, on its axis. Common site is a sigmoid volvulus. Sigmoid volvulus. Another less common is cecal and all. See, volvulus can be primary and secondary. Primary means because of some congenital reasons, or mesenteric attachment is like that which predisposes, or some congenital band is there which leads to rotation. Okay, or secondary means secondary to some causes, adhesion or all. So sigmoid volvulus occurs basically in elderly population, an African country, because of the long sigmoid colon loaded with fecal overloading is there. The mesocolon is basically long mesocolon, long and wide with narrow attachment. Okay, so dilated colon, dilated sigmoid colon full of feces and fiber, long mesocolon, narrow attachment. These all lead to predisposes to volvulus. How will patient present to you with volvulus? He will present to you with signs of large bowel obstruction. Same distension, huge distension will be there. Later vomiting, constipation and pain. Okay, this is how they present to you. How will you investigate these patients? If you get an X-ray done, an abdominal X-ray, that will show hugely dilated colonic loop and with a mesentery or band-like structure in the center. That is called coffee bean appearance. Coffee bean appearance is classical of sigmoid volvulus. If you inject barium or some dye from below, that will give the bird beak's appearance. Bird beak, like a beak of a bird at the site of obstruction. Okay, CT can also show that. And the treatment, how will you treat these patients? The sigmoid volvulus in early cases will be treated by colonoscopy or flatus tube decompression. A gentle trial is taken, a flatus tube is tried to pass beyond the obstruction, or a colonoscope is passed under vision beyond the obstruction very gently. Here, the danger here is perforation. If colon has become gangrenous, there will be perforation. So gently you have to pass, and if derotates, then there will be huge a passage of gas and flatus and feces, and the patient will be relieved. You see, in sigmoid volvulus, the rotation occurs in anti-clockwise rotation. It's always anti-clockwise. If more than 180 degrees is there, the obstruction will be there. If 360 degrees is there, there will be strangulation and gangrene. So, if these methods, flatus tube and colonoscopy fails, then we have to operate upon these patients. We give a midline incision and derotate. As the rotation here is anti-clockwise, so we'll rotate it in a clockwise direction, and then what we do, we resect it. Why we resect? Because if you leave it like that, after derotation, the recurrence is very high. So most of the time, resection anastomosis is done. Or if gangrene has occurred and sepsis is there, Hartmann procedure is done. That is, after resection, the proximal end is brought out as a end colostomy and distal one is closed. That is called Hartmann procedure. Okay. Cecal volvulus more common in females. It's occur mostly because of the mesenteric congenital condition where cecum is floating and not fixed properly to the retroperitoneum. It can rotate, and cecum usually rotates clockwise. Okay, it's not that common. And in this also, it can be diagnosed by CT scan and all, and there will be high-lying cecum, and the treatment will be surgical treatment basically here. After laparotomy, the derotation is done and cecum is fixed to the retroperitoneum. If cecum is gangrenous, then it has to be excised. Okay, a segmental or right hemicolectomy excision can be done. Sometimes, rarely, cecum and ileum both gets entangled. That is called compound volvulus. That is, iliosigmoid knotting occurs. Ileum also gets knotted to the sigmoid colon. So this is called compound volvulus. Very rarely, transverse colon and splenic flexor volvulus have also been described, but they are very rare conditions. Okay. See, in obstruction, there is also a term closed loop obstruction. What is closed loop? Means it is obstructed at two places. Suppose in large gut, some obstruction occurs. Then at one point there is ileocecal valve. If patent ileocecal valve is there, then this acts as a closed loop obstruction. Means loop is closed, and that leads to increased accumulation of secretion, tension, and gangrene in the subsequently. Okay. So next class we will discuss intussusception and other causes and investigation and treatment of intestinal obstruction. Thank you.